No one really explains this part of life to you. They say heartbreak hurts. They say loss takes time. They say you'll be fine if you stay busy and keep moving. But no one tells you that letting go can feel like your entire inner world is being dismantled quietly, slowly, without warning. You don't fall apart on the outside. You don't stop functioning. You still go to work, still answer messages, still do what's expected. Yet inside, something feels profoundly unsettled. You wake up and everything looks familiar, but it doesn't feel familiar. The future you were leaning toward is suddenly gone, and you're standing in a version of life you never mentally prepared for. Not because you were naive, but because you trusted what you were building. And that's what makes this especially difficult for men. Men aren't taught how to process invisible loss. You're taught to push forward, to stay productive, to keep emotions under control. You're taught that feeling deeply is a liability, not a skill. So when letting go begins, you don't label it properly. You call it restlessness. You call it frustration. You call it exhaustion. You call it lack of motivation. But beneath all of that is something far more personal. A part of who you were is being released. And that feels overwhelming because identity changes are never gentle. You're not just releasing a person. You're releasing a version of yourself that existed in your imagination. The man you were becoming, the routine you were settling into, the stability you quietly relied on. You're letting go of a future that once felt solid, and your mind doesn't treat that as a small thing. To your nervous system, attachment is safety. For most of human history, connection meant protection. Being bonded meant you weren't alone. Losing that bond meant uncertainty, and uncertainty required heightened alertness. Your body still operates on that ancient wiring. So when a meaningful attachment ends, whether it's a relationship, a dream, or a sense of direction, your system reacts strongly. Not because you're weak, but because it's doing exactly what it was designed to do: protect you from instability. That's why your chest feels tight for no obvious reason. Why sleep becomes light or interrupted. Why food feels unappealing. Why your thoughts replay the same moments again and again. Why silence feels uncomfortable. This isn't failure. This isn't you not handling it well. This is your system adjusting to change. And here's why it often feels heavier for men. Most men don't attach easily, but when they do, they attach with intention. You didn't open up instantly. You didn't imagine a future casually. You didn't invest without thinking it through. You took your time. You trusted carefully. You built quietly. So when that attachment dissolves, it doesn't feel like disappointment. It feels like the ground shifted beneath you. But instead of processing it outwardly, you internalize it. You analyze it. You try to think your way out of it. You replay conversations, searching for meaning, closure, or something that gives you back a sense of control. You tell yourself, if I can just understand what happened, I'll feel better. But understanding alone doesn't bring relief. Acceptance does. And acceptance feels uncomfortable. Because acceptance means acknowledging that something important has changed, and that you can't go back to how things were. That's why resistance shows up. You revisit memories. You imagine alternate paths. You hold emotional doors half open. You stay mentally connected, just in case. But staying in that middle space between holding on and letting go is what creates the most discomfort. Because you're not fully here, and you're no longer there. Letting go feels intense, because something real is being released. Not the care you felt, not the experiences you shared, not the lessons you gained. What's being released is the version of you that was organized around that attachment. For a long time, part of your identity adapted to it. Your nervous system adjusted. Your expectations aligned around it. Your emotional rhythm took its presence into account. When it's gone, the system needs time to recalibrate. Your mind reaches for what's familiar, even when it's no longer available, like muscle memory for a routine that doesn't exist anymore. You don't just miss the person or situation. You miss how grounded you felt when you believed in that future. That's the emptiness you notice. And emptiness is unsettling for men because it feels like loss of direction. But emptiness isn't a sign of weakness. It's a transitional space. A space where old structures loosen so new ones can form. Before clarity comes uncertainty. Before stability returns, there's adjustment. Before confidence rebuilds, there's reorientation. This is where many men misinterpret what's happening. They think the discomfort means something is wrong, that they're stuck, that they'll feel this way indefinitely, so they try to escape it. They overwork. They distract themselves constantly. They jump into shallow connections. They emotionally shut down and call it moving on. But avoidance doesn't resolve transition. Unprocessed emotions don't disappear, they resurface later in different forms. Irritability, detachment, lack of fulfillment, or repeating the same patterns again. That's not growth. That's postponement. Real growth looks quieter. It looks like allowing discomfort without dramatizing it. It looks like sitting with uncertainty without rushing to fill it. It looks like letting an old version of yourself loosen its grip without forcing a new one too quickly. And yes, that process is uncomfortable, because meaningful change always challenges identity. Nothing evolves without release. In nature, cycles are constant. Trees let go of leaves. Animals adapt to seasons. Old patterns make room for new ones. Renewal only happens because something else completes its role. You're not falling apart. You're transitioning. And transitions are rarely smooth. Here's the shift that makes the difference. The discomfort isn't asking you to go backward. It's asking you to move forward with awareness. It's inviting you to build an identity that isn't dependent on a single attachment, outcome, or expectation. But to do that, you have to allow the old structure to loosen. There's no shortcut through this phase. No quote that bypasses it. No distraction that truly replaces it. Just time, honesty, and presence. And slowly, often without you noticing at first, things begin to settle. Your nervous system calms. Your sleep improves. Your thoughts stop looping. Your body feels more grounded. Not because you replaced what you released, but because you integrated it. You stop fighting memories. You stop resisting reality. You stop mentally negotiating with what's already happened. And when resistance fades, clarity emerges. You begin to see what you learned, where you compromised too much, what you truly value, what you want to build next. The experience stops feeling like something that happened to you and starts feeling like something that shaped you. That's the difference between men who remain stuck and men who move forward stronger. One avoids the discomfort and carries it quietly for years. The other allows it fully and comes out steadier, calmer, more self-directed. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's releasing emotional dependence. It's understanding that what ended doesn't define what comes next. It was part of the journey, not the destination. And one day, you notice a subtle change. You think about it and your body stays relaxed. The memory passes through without pulling you under. You still acknowledge it, but it no longer controls you. You still remember, but you're no longer anchored there. That's when you realize something important. You didn't lose yourself. You outgrew a phase. And what replaces it is more grounded, more stable, more internally anchored. You stop chasing reassurance. You stop fearing uncertainty. You stop building your identity around something outside yourself. You become self-contained. This is why letting go feels so intense but isn't the end. Because what's actually happening isn't loss of self. It's reorganization, realignment, growth. And growth doesn't always feel uplifting at first. Sometimes it feels like standing still while everything inside you rearranges. But if you stay present long enough, you come out clearer, stronger, more aware, more free.